So I'm cleaning up for the day. It's getting too hot out for the camera and I am boiling. It's about 100 degrees right now and there's a bit of a breeze, but it is supposed to rain later this afternoon. I want to talk to you about your investment into products. More specifically, your investment into cheap Chinese red dots, weapon lights, things like that. Your Pinty, Fiachi, Zulissi, Siley, and so on and so on. And how these companies are taking advantage of you. So I have done many optic videos, from expensive optics. I just recorded a video today with a $1,000 LPVO. I understand that's not expensive in the grand scheme of, LPVOs. Some are out there 3 times the price. But nonetheless, I've done expensive optics, red dots, things like that. And I've done $50, $100 cheap ones from Siley. And if you're not new to the channel, you also know that I've done some stuff with Pinty optics, and they actually tried to pay me to take down a bad review because it was a shit product. With that said, these companies, unless you treat them a certain way, are taking advantage of you. So oftentimes these cheap Chinese companies, they prey on new and small channel YouTubers. They know that the first time you get something sent for free, that there is a dopamine rush. You're like, fuck yes, I'm making it, I'm getting free stuff. The dream is coming true. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but they know that the small channels out there, new channels, I still get them. I'm almost 50,000 subscribers. I still get emails from these companies. But they know that the small channels are happy to take their product and many times, I'm not saying all the time, many times give it a good review because it is guaranteed more free stuff. They know this. And they're taking advantage of you by doing that. Now, how do I mean they're taking advantage of you? So, a very good, for instance, is Siley. I have nothing against Siley, the company. I have done 2 or 3 red dots for them, and every time I told them I needed 1,000 rounds of ammo. I'm not reviewing your $90 red dot unless I get something out of it, because the $90 red dot is not worth the time. And of course, getting ammo doesn't mean that it's going to get a good review. That just means that I can now afford to go out and shoot, put enough rounds on that optic to give you a reasonable opinion about the performance of that particular optic in my testing. Oftentimes it's just an example of one. I don't know what they offer beyond that, but in my testing, I can give you an opinion of that one single optic. So what you have invested in a cheap optic review is, I'm assuming most people out there are going to be doing about 500 rounds on an optic. That means you have, in just ammo alone, you already have more money than the optic is worth. If you're like me and you do 1,000 rounds on an optic, or 1,000-ish rounds on an optic, that means you are now doubling or tripling the price of that optic. And if it is a rifle optic, something like a cheap $90, $100 rifle red dot, just a standard small micro red dot, now it's 4 times, maybe even 5 times the cost of the optic. And on top of that, unless you have a range in your backyard, of course you have the cost of targets and things like that as well, and wear and tear on a gun and blah, 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 all that stuff. You also have your drive to and from the range, which at $4 a gallon isn't cheap. And you have your editing time. Assuming you're putting any sort of quality into your channel, you're trying to produce a reasonably good, if not very good, video, you're gonna have a couple hours minimum of editing. Well, now you have 2 to 4 times the cost of the optic in ammo. You have, what, $50, maybe something like that, in gas, plus your time. If your time is worth something to you, let's assume it's $20 an hour. So now you have a minimum of $40. The $40, the 2 hours in the editing plus the gas alone is the price of the optic. You have $400, $500, $600 wrapped up in a $90 Chinese knockoff optic, because they know that, again, the startup YouTuber, the small channel, they're just happy to get something for free, and they're taking advantage of that. Now, let's not forget that they called you. You didn't get a hold of them. Let's not forget that they contacted you. Therefore, your time must be worth something to them. And I'm not saying you need to tell them that you're going to charge them money. I tell them that. Feel free to do whatever you want. But I'm not saying you need to tell them that you're going to charge them money. But keep in mind that they sought your labor out. They sought out your time, your audience, and your labor. That's worth something. They act like they're doing you a favor by sending you a free optic when you're going to spend 3 to 4 times the optic cost in order to review it. They're taking advantage of you. Now, I'm not saying, don't worry, that's in the back of my bed, not on the ground. Now, I would never tell a YouTuber or even insinuate to a YouTuber what they should and shouldn't be doing on their channel. There's a lot of crap content out there, and I'm hoping you're not one of them that makes that. But I'm not saying stop reviewing these things for these companies. I am saying that you need to consider getting something out of it, because, and I'm going to say this lots of times, they're taking advantage of you. And they know they're doing it, and they're doing it on purpose. Do you need to ask them for money? That's not for me to say. Do you need to ask them for ammo? I sure as fuck would. I mean, I absolutely would. And if they refuse to pay you, or and reasonable amounts of money, if you have 500 subscribers and you ask them for $1,000, they're going to tell you no. I'd tell you no, just because the value isn't there. But as far as shooting the optic, it costs ammo. It costs that money, and I would not hesitate to ask these companies for ammo. And if they say no, understand that they're telling you that your time, your effort, your money, your skills, your knowledge is not worth $200 in ammo. That's what they're telling you. That they won't invest $200 for a review and your time. That's what they're telling you. And if they do refuse, stop giving these fucking companies a platform. If they want to advertise, which is what they're trying to do, if they want to advertise their optic on your channel, they need to pay for that. They need to invest into that. And a $90 optic, which doesn't cost them like $10 to make it, a $90 optic is not an investment that's worth your time. And I know, I mentioned this on a live stream that I did. I mentioned this whole thing on a live stream that I did, and somebody said, well, at least I get a $90 optic out of it, right? No, you're not getting a $90 optic out of it. You didn't contact them. You didn't seek out that optic and say, I want this because I need this. You didn't get a $90 optic out of it. You got negative $400 out of it. That's what you got. You got negative $300 or negative $400 out of it. That's what you got out of it. You didn't get a free optic. You could have taken that money if you wanted an optic, if you wanted that particular optic, or something that's nicer. You spent more money reviewing that bullshit optic than would have cost you to go out and buy a nicer one. Keep that in mind. So in the end, if they won't invest in you, you should not be investing in them. That's just my advice. And maybe it'll clean up YouTube a little bit. Maybe it'll clean up some of these bullshit reviews of people that just give, positive reviews because they got something for free. And maybe it'll help you out in the long run. Again, I want all of these channels to succeed. And if you are negative $300 in every review you do, you're not going to succeed for very long. You're not succeeding at all. That's called being in the red. That's not bad. That's not good. So just keep all this in mind. Next time Fiachi or Pinty or Siley or Zulissi or there's more out there of these very absolutely identical optics out there of reasonably low quality and reasonably low quality optics and reasonably low quality companies. They need to invest in you. That would be what I would have here in the end. And the optic is not an investment. And if they refuse to invest in you after contacting you, after asking you for your time, your knowledge, your ammo, your labor, if they refuse to invest in you, don't give them a platform. You can tell them no. Nobody in the industry gives a shit what Zulissi has to say about you. Well, this guy wouldn't review our optic. Not a legitimate person in the industry gives a flying fuck what Zulissi Optics or Fiachi Optics opinion of you or your channel is. Trust me. That's all I got. I'm going to finish cleaning up. Time to go. Been wanting to make this video for a minute. Get it off my chest. Hopefully you got something out of it. I appreciate everybody's support. We'll talk to you later.